Hi there, this is Alex Miceli, Golfweek.com, and I just listened to maybe 45 minutes of a press conference, I could call it, I guess. The USGA and the RNA, Peter Dawson, Mike Davis, telling us why anchoring was horrible, bad, necessary to be banned from the game of golf. But we're willing to listen to see if we missed something along the way. That's what they said. They're going to give it 3 months and see what happens. But January 1, 2016, mark my words, if they get what they want, anchoring, whatever that is by definition, is going to be banned from the game of golf. Now, anytime you need charts and graphics and pictures and everything else, you know that it's hard to explain exactly what anchoring is, which is the problem. How hard is it to explain anchoring? And they did an admirable job considering what they have to deal with. But let's be honest, when you're out there playing with your friend and he's out there going like this, and you're saying, no, it's because your elbow touched there, then you had to have anchored and you get a two-stroke penalty. Are you serious? Is that what the game has come to? You know, I'm sitting down there like this and maybe the butt of the putter touched my belly enough that it was a belly putt? Really? Who's figuring that out? What happened to the $2 Nassau? It's going to be ruined. We're going to ruin the $2 Nassau is what's going to happen. On the professional level, who knows? Keegan Bradley now has walked back from his comments that he made in China. Webb Simpson has always been, he's the U.S. Open champion. What do you want him to do? Carl Peterson, Tim Clark, that's a different story. I think they feel more, they have more at stake in this. Carl Peterson had spent 16 years of his professional career, his entire professional career, with a long putter. Now they're telling him that the whole time you shouldn't have been doing that. Really? Seriously? We're really doing that now? For over 20 years, they've been looking at this problem. 30 years, really, they've been looking at this issue. Never did anything. For 30 years, the game of golf was the game of golf when I did this. Now it's not going to be that way in 2016. Are we kidding ourselves? What are we doing? This is really going to clarify things for people. Well, I didn't know anybody didn't have clarification before. We all knew what we could do and couldn't do. Does this really make it simpler? Does this make it clearer to you and me? No, it doesn't. It makes it more murky, more muddied. I don't understand where the clarification is. Where it clarifies things is for Mike Davis and Peter Dawson, who believe that this should have never been part of the game. And now that we've gotten to the point where we are at a position where we can say this should go, it's gone. Poof. Over. And there's nothing you can do about it because we control the game of golf. That's basically what they're saying. They're giving you 3 months to give you comments, but as Peter said, we've basically exhausted everything that we've looked at. The media has said everything. We've gone through everything they've said. We've looked at every option, and this is what we get. Okay, Peter, then good. 2016, you're going for it. So where do we go from here? Well, on the amateur level, you probably got less than a chance to get this changed. And you could go the legal route, but right now that doesn't seem to be very good. But the PGA Tour, it's a whole nother kettle of fish. Right after these announcements were made, right after the press conference was done, I got an email from the PGA Tour saying basically we're going to be looking at this like we would look at any rule change, like we did when there was grooves. There was going to be a meeting in January in San Diego. There will be a further meeting down the road. I think it's March or April. These are all either PAC meetings or PGA Tour Policy Board meetings. And this is where they're going to start discussing if anchoring, as the USGA and the RNA are defining it, should be illegal on the PGA Tour. That should be a much more interesting conversation and certainly less one-sided than the conversation I heard today. What could happen? Well, obviously they could decide not to allow anchoring like the USGA rules say. And if that's the case, then the Carl Petersons and the Adam Scotts and the Keegan Bradleys of the world will not be able to anchor their putters. However, they could look at it a little differently. They could make the decision that anchoring is not a problem on this tour and that they will allow anchoring. Now that would be quite a departure from what they've done in the past, but not unprecedented because there are situations where there are some rules, very limited rules, where the PGA Tour does not abide by the rules of golf on the USGA. But I think there's likely to be some kind of bargain made between those anchored players and the non-anchored players on the PGA Tour. And that would be the most interesting part of the equation. What will they do? It's going to take a while. It means a lot of discussion. It means that this conversation about anchoring is not going away. But what it does mean is that maybe we might get some clarity down the road for those players. Because let's be honest, how fair is it when someone says, for 30 years, you could do something, and then January 1, 2016, you can't. And that's your living. That's how you make your living. That's your livelihood. How fair is that? Is it equitable? No. That is the other answer. If it's not equitable, does that mean that at some point it gets to the courts? That certainly is a possibility. But if the players think about it, the best way to deal with this is on the PGA Tour level for the professional player. And eventually anchoring will go away. But at least those players that relied on the fact that they could anchor for all that period of time would not be disenfranchised here. They would not be, their position would not be eliminated. They would actually have the ability to still continue to anchor. That is the compromise they should be looking at, and I believe that will be at some point in the discussion that goes on between the PGA Tour Policy Board and the players. I'm Alex Miceli, Golfweek.com.